We are in the 9th month of the Russia-Ukraine war, and Ukraine is claiming to have finally made gains. It liberated the Kherson region without any grueling battle, but this victory was met with mixed signals from the United States of America. Washington, D.C. wants Kyiv to begin peace negotiations with Moscow. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, reiterated his case for a negotiated settlement to end the Russia-Ukraine war. He said that Ukraine should reach a settlement before the conflict becomes a stalemate like World War I. While some U.S. officials said that they would never force the Ukrainian President Zelensky to negotiate or make concessions. Echoing similar concerns, French President Emmanuel Macron said that the West should consider Russia's need for security guarantees if Moscow agrees to end the war in Ukraine. However, after several rounds of talks earlier, Kyiv and Moscow have not yet met to negotiate to end the war in Ukraine in the recent past. Kyiv says that peace talks are only possible if Russia halts and withdraws from all Ukrainian territories it has seized. At the same time, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has said that it would be a grave mistake to completely stop talking to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Scholz made his remarks after he and Putin held a phone conversation to discuss Russia's ongoing invasion in Ukraine.
They are dealing with them with these objectives. There is no
Bundesregierung helfen werden, dass sie die Herausforderungen, die mit gestiegenen
Yair Navort is a political analyst and journalist based in Amsterdam. He is joining us live to talk more about this story. Yair, welcome to WION. What do you make of leaders in France and Germany now saying that they are pushing for talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the war? What could be necessitating this so-called change of heart?
Thanks for having me, first of all. So I think that what we see at the moment, there is a big gap. There is a big difference between what's going on the ground and between what's going on within the, the diplomatic corridors. Because on the ground itself, what we see is actually kind of an escalation of the war. We see that the Ukrainians started yesterday to attack targets, military targets within Russia, far away from the Russian-Ukrainian border, around 700, 800 kilometers from the border. They did it also tonight with an unmanned drone. So in that perspective, we see a very, I would say, a clear direction of the war, which is probably going towards escalation. But at the same time, as you said, and rightly so, the European leaders are trying to keep open channels, open dialogue channels with the Russian president in order to keep all the time the options of dialogue and compromise open. Now, I think that what is very important to understand is that although the Americans and the Europeans would like this conflict to end soon, at the same time, they support the right of the Ukrainians to make the final decision. And as you said, the American administration doesn't want to force Ukraine to come into the negotiations room.
Right.
It will come only when the Ukrainians will feel strong enough and ready for this move, which I think at the moment we are not quite close to the end of the war.
Yair, do you think the efforts will bear any fruit? Will Putin give in to pressure? And what will it take for Russia and Ukraine to lower their guns?
Well, that's the question. I mean, I think that President Putin would have been happy to stop the war now at the current status, when Russia can keep the land that it occupied and annexed before. But that's exactly the reason why the Ukrainians would never agree. So there is kind of a zero-sum game at the moment, because as long as the momentum is with the Ukrainian army, and it seems that at the moment the Ukrainians have the military momentum on the field, so I don't see how they will agree to any compromise or any negotiations. At the same time, because of the winter and the economical problems within Europe, the inflation, the high prices, it might be that the Europeans will try to press Kiev very strongly within the next few months to compromise. But again, we need to wait and see what will happen on the ground, in the battleground, and we will be, think smarter within the next 2 to 3 months.
Finally, Yair, and this is very quick, do you think the West is fighting for their own interests?
Well, I think that obviously, as any other country, as India, as China, as Russia itself, the West also think about its own interests, but that's, I think, quite obvious, quite clear. But the West is not, is not one country. It's different countries with the different interests, and it's not easy for them to maneuver within the different interests of everyone. But I do think that, of course, they have also their own interests, and they would like to promote these interests. But at the same time, I think that currently one of the most important things for the West, the collective West, as we say, is to help to assist Ukraine to fight against the Russians and try to bring back to Ukraine the land that it's lost in the last few months.
All right. Yair Navort is a political analyst and journalist based in Amsterdam. Yair, thank you very much for talking to WION today. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.